Yo, you are here with the MCW Tag Team Champions, Rush Hour, and that makes Showtime! Dion Epps.
And Hot Boy, Tommy Seto.
And you're watching O Face Wrestling.
That's right. Oh, Face Wrestling. Listen to the podcast. Listen. They are Dark Side approved. Howden approves it. Oh, Face Wrestling. I'll be listening. Will you?
Come and listen to O Face Wrestling Podcast with your favorite Siren the Voodoo Doll, aka Nina Monet.
I'm the one-eyed, thick-thighed woad, and you're watching O Face Wrestling.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I am joined by Jenna from the Mixed Tag Team Show. What up, Jenna?
What's up? Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So let's just cut to the chase. So today we are doing a Sasha Banks Spotlight episode. This has been something I've been wanting to do for months, but I had high hopes of Sasha Banks potentially winning the Royal Rumble, going on the WrestleMania, and challenging Bayley for the title. So I kind of wanted to hold off on it and to see what happens then. And then after that, it was like, maybe she'll win Money in the Bank, and then we'll talk about it after that. But, that didn't happen. So I think it's just time just to do it because with WWE and, everything like that, we don't know what their plans are for her. So
kind of the thing of being a Sasha fan, you just always gotta wait.
Oh, I know they like to mess with us
all the time.
Oh yeah. So let's start off with you, and because I want to talk about how we became fans of Sasha Banks. So when did you first become a fan of her?
Well, if anyone knows me, knows that one of the things that I'm into is like sneakers. I'm a big sneakerhead. So there was this message board that I used to go on to called Nike Talk. And essentially that's what they did, talk about sneakers. But they had like a general thread where they discussed miscellaneous things, and they had a wrestling thread. And I found it cool because at the time I didn't know people were into wrestling like I was. I kind of, not that I was embarrassed by it, but to so many people, it's like, oh, I used to watch it back in the day. I don't watch it anymore. So to find people that were still into it, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I would browse it, maybe talk a little bit or whatever. And then I noticed like just guys going in about Sasha. And I thought it was interesting because I've never heard guys in particular go in on a woman wrestler, not only because of her looks, but her actual ability. So I was like, oh, and I wasn't watching, back in the day to catch NXT, you didn't have the WWE network. So you couldn't really let me just tune in on my PlayStation or whatever and just catch NXT. You had to really go out and search for it. So that's what I wound up doing. This might have been 2014-ish, I believe. And I don't want to say the hype drew me in, but I instantly saw what they were talking about. Just like, she was just different from what I was used to growing up watching wrestling. Like, I've been watching wrestling since I was, 8, 9 years old. And the women that I'm used to, it was either ballets, like really sexy, or it might have been like Chyna or Jacqueline or whatever that was just really bulked up. Great wrestlers, but just wasn't in between that. And then for someone to have the ability to captivate the audience and just be really good in the ring, I was like, oh, this girl is she's it. And then just to see the different matches as she progressed and evolved, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely a fan. So that's how that kind of happened for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it was kind of, it was during her NXT days too. I first saw her back before she was the boss, because I was drawn into NXT for Paige. This was back before the network when you had to watch it through like Hulu or something like that. So I remember seeing her, but like I said, she didn't have the boss character yet. So when Paige had left NXT, I kind of drifted away from NXT as well, but I would still kind of like tune in and out here and there because I wanted to see what Charlotte Flair was doing. Of course, want to see what Ric Flair's daughter is doing and all that. So I had tuned into an episode where she was feuding with Sasha, and I remember Bayley coming out with like a big old like cast around her leg, and she had crutches, and Sasha like kicked her down, and then Charlotte came out, and then Sasha basically beat her up, and she had, the NXT title holding up. And I was like, this chick is cool as hell. And so I was like, I'm going to start watching this a little more, see where this feud goes. And they had a takeover match. It was in December of 2014. I forgot what the takeover was called. And that match, like, blew my mind. I was like, holy smokes, like, this Sasha girl, she can go. And then I just kept on watching NXT. And then, I saw her win the title at that, that Fatal 4-Way, the 4 Horsewomen. And I first of all, I just fell in love with the character. Like, that boss gimmick is, by far the coolest character in all of wrestling, in my opinion. And then her in-ring skills are just out of this world. Like, I won't go as far as to say she's the best from, like, an in-ring skill standpoint, but when you put everything together, her chemistry with everyone, her ability to tell a story, and just how much she goes, all in on every match, like, nobody does that. And it's just like, when you mix her gimmick, her character, her mic skills, her in-ring skills, all of that together, it was just, she was, just like kind of like the best thing in wrestling at the time for me. Like, like mentioning, like, being a Sasha Banks fan isn't easy, because you see someone so talented, and it's like she should be the face of the company, but we'll kind of get to that as we go through the episode. So, overall, during NXT, like, how do you feel about her NXT run?
I mean, going to what you said, you won't go as far as, like, calling her the best, but I'm be honest with you. Like, it might sound biased coming from me. Like, anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Sasha fan. Before Sasha was The Rock. Like, there was really no in between in regards to favorite wrestlers. Her NXT run was legendary. This is someone who, as she puts it, was just happy to be there and didn't really have a character to, realizing that, what, she may not be with the company for too long, and taking all the different things that she's learned and the people that she's around, like her cousin, and just making it into her own, and just growing, you know what I mean? And it's just like she started with, like, that. Remember that there was a storyline, that secret admirer thing. She went from that to being to Summer Rae's, like, lackey, essentially, to getting out from under her wing and just growing, and then the audience gravitating to her. It's like it's just like wrestling 101, how to be a wrestler, right? Like, learning and how do you apply it and become the best that you can be. And in regards to all the wrestlers that have come out of NXT, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that have great, I guess, had a great rundown there, but it was just something about her, like how she was able to literally have legendary matches with so many people, and I always think about when they started the whole Ratchet chants, that
I remember that.
That could have been something where that could, hurt your career, because if you're not able to overcome that, that's just where you're going to be known as, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did she do? She flipped it. She lashed out at the audience. She had shirts that said, "I'm not Ratchet." Like, she played into it. Even though when you look at her, right, like, Mercedes, like the actual person, she's far from being Ratchet, right? But what did she do?
Yeah.
Instead of just, going home and crying about it, she used it to her advantage, and that's just the greatness of Sasha Banks.
Exactly, and like you said, her run in NXT was legendary, because the first thing is, she wasn't supposed to be as big as she got. She wasn't one of those big names they signed from the indies, and they sat there and gave her this mega spotlight. She made herself. I don't know whose idea it was to do the boss character, but she really took that character and took it to another level. Like you said, the whole Ratchet stuff. And I mean, like, I just remember just being such a big fan of her during NXT. Like, I literally bought, because she didn't have the sunglasses, the shades for sale. So I literally got on Amazon, bought some shutter shades, and I would wear it for every episode of NXT. Like, every time she was on TV, it was must watch. She reminds me of The Rock, because I know you brought him up. She did not have to wrestle a match to entertain you. Like, I remember that contract signing between her and Becky, and she gets on top of the table, has her foot on Becky's head, and holds up the title. I'm like, this girl is just so damn legendary. Like every
Say that about in regards to The Rock. I always say that, not necessarily promo wise, because I think that's something that one of the things or the few things that she could work on is her mic skills. But I've always felt that like she is just on par with The Rock in regards to just being able to captivate an audience, and it's just essentially in that way. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'd have to say, like as far as being a heel, her mic skills are, there. I've never had an issue with her mic skills as a heel. Face, I've always felt they were pretty good. It just depends. Like I loved her promos with Charlotte Flair on the main roster.
Yeah, and there's nothing. I mean, me personally, but again, that's just being biased. I can understand how there might be better people, like for example Becky or whatever on the mic, but I've never thought it was anything. I thought she was great as a heel. You know what I mean? And even as a face, I think she just had to find her footing in regards to like, okay, I'm not a heel anymore. How can I be a baby face and draw the audience in and use like the script that they have to give me and make it my own. And once she found that, I think she was fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like at the end of the day, when she did turn face, the crowd was so behind her. It was kind of like, I don't know, like her transition into a face, I felt was pretty good, honestly. We didn't think it was going to happen. And I thought we were going to get that heel versus heel with Charlotte when she came back at the Royal Rumble and, attacked Becky and Charlotte. I'm thinking, okay, heel versus heel is pretty cool. But then they just kind of quickly transitioned her to a face. I think it was when Team Bad kind of turned on her.
Yeah, that pop at, like you said, the Royal Rumble, and it was 2016. The look when she came back was, you didn't hear women having those type of pops ever.
That was the pop.
Like,
and it's like crazy. Thinking about that, like a lot of people don't talk about that pop. That was one of the biggest pops I've ever heard for a female. Like people talk about how other women wrestlers get these huge pops, but what about Sasha? Like in my life, I've only heard like Becky get bigger pops than Sasha.
And that's just recent because of just Becky, blowing up. But like, before Becky turned into the man, this was a nightly thing for Sasha. After she won the title and she opened up Raw those couple of times, the way people popped when she first won the title, the way she popped when she returned back last year, the way people popped. You know what I mean? The way for what was it, Clash of Champions and Hell in the Cell, the way that when people thought she was gonna get the win, how it was 50-50. You know what I mean? No one was. When Becky was on her run, no one was getting that type of response. It was just 100% pro Becky. You know what I mean? So I don't think, like you said, a lot of people give her that credit because, like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, she draws attention.
Exactly. Like I've never seen, too, at least from my knowledge, a female get, these kind of like rebellious chants. Like the fans were rebelling against whatever was going on in the ring to chant "We want Sasha." Like, cause I remember, Sasha Banks was ringside, and I think it was like Naomi or Tamina were in a match, and fans like, "We want Sasha," and like I've never seen, a wrestler with so much buzz. And the crazy thing is, she's never been like booked as the face of the company, and she gets treated like it by the fans. And like that's my thing too, and the thing I really love about Sasha, because at the end of the day, she just wrestles, and she is so mainstream popular. Like when I wear her shirts out in public, people say stuff. Oh, I know who that is. That's Sasha Banks. And then a lot of my coworkers and all, when they see like my social media, they mention too. Oh, I've seen that girl in your photo on TV. Like people know who Sasha Banks is, and she's solely been a wrestler. Like she doesn't do all these other things. To get this extra attention. She goes in and wrestles. She's very private too. I've come to learn about that. She's very private with her life, and I respect that. She doesn't you don't see her post pictures with her and her husband. You don't. I've heard like she's gotten criticized for not being very social with her fans, like during meet and greet sessions, like if a fan tries to take a picture with her at the airport, and I know some wrestlers will do that. And you got to respect that, though. But at the end of the day, she draws, so much damn attention. Like you said with the Becky feud, everyone was, pro Becky, Becky this, Becky that. Sasha Banks came back and she changed everything. She was the talk. Every time she's on TV, Sasha Banks, I see on Twitter constantly. Like, she, and why she doesn't get booked the way she should, I don't understand. I've heard she can't stay healthy, but she's never really been out that long for any injury. She's not like getting injured every match. I mean, my opinion, she's the most well-rounded female in the company when you put her look, her gimmick, her character, her charisma, her ability to have such great chemistry with everyone, and that's what we want. If we had a champion like Sasha, every pay-per-view giving us those 5-star matches, like, because we've never really had that. Ever since like Charlotte Flair, we've never had a champion that just constantly goes out. Other than NXT, obviously, the women there just constantly book stellar. But how do you what's your opinion on Sasha Banks' run so far? On the main roster from start to beginning, or beginning to now.
It's tough. I think you mentioned earlier, and I definitely mentioned this often. It is tough being her fan, not because of anything that she does in particular. I think as Sasha fans, we're constantly proud of her, just her drive and her ability, and she just always goes out and puts her best foot forward. But it's hard in the sense just booking wise, right? And you mentioned you don't understand why she isn't booked as the face of the company. And at times she was. In 2016, there wasn't really any other options, right? Because even though you had Charlotte, she was the heel, so and Sasha was completely over. So let's give her the merch and all these top feuds and first and whatever, but we're not gonna let her run with grab the keys and run with it. I always say, for me personally, as a woman of color, I feel that has a lot to do with it. I know it's 2020 and we've come so far, but a lot of ways we haven't come far, and just there's different things that we've seen. I truly believe a lot has to do with that, excuse me, because if it was a situation where, I always say, if Sasha was, and at the end of the day, she's half white, right? So if she was just a white woman that was a blonde, I feel like this is a different story, in regards to her being pushed, or rumors being spread about her, or saying that she's not quote unquote friendly with fans and this and that, which is not true. So I just think that has a lot to do with it, because everything that you said, she's just the matches that she puts on, the fact that she can work with so many people. But to answer your original question, it's been okay. She's had really, really good moments. She's had literally top matches. Last year she had the 2 top 5 matches, and that's with men included. You know what I mean? She left the company for a bit to take a break, came back and gave you the second best match of the year. I honestly thought it was the best match of the year, but I'm again biased, right? So she's had it's hard to really put it into words. Again, she's had really good matches, and has grown her star, but she hasn't had that ability to be the face of the company, to have a long title reign, which she more than anyone, I think, deserves. It's crazy to me when I look at the days that a lot of these women are champions, and she's only been champion 82 days last time I've checked, in total. That's insulting for someone at her caliber. That's crazy to me. It'd be one thing if she wasn't a popular superstar, or she wasn't that good. She is a popular superstar. She's that damn good. So there's no, you know what I mean? And there's so many wrestlers that are injured prone and still are able to hold the title. So that excuse in regards to oh, well, she can't stay healthy. I think that's, that's crap. So it's been, like I said, 50-50. We've seen a lot of great matches from her and great moments, but she hasn't really gotten her opportunity to shine. The company being 100% behind her. It's just like it's her that was able to create buzz and do what she could on the main roster.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. It's like they like her. They showcase her a lot. She was in both of the women's Hell in a Cell matches. The one was the first ever, main event for a pay-per-view. She was in both of the Iron Man matches. The first ever women's Royal Rumble, she was the first entrant, and she was the longest one in that match, making it to the Final Four. She was alongside with Bayley, the first ever tag team champion. So it's like they like her, but like you said, they just won't give her the keys and let her run with it. And why exactly it is, it's really hard to tell. I mean, we're not, none of us are backstage, hearing the conversations and seeing what they're saying about, these wrestlers and the decisions they make. I do know a lot of their opinion. It just felt like a good time for her to win those titles, and it's just they favored them over her. But then the other weird part was when she won the Raw Women's title from Alexa and lost it the next week.
That was brutal.
Yeah, that was something that just made no sense, and it's like, it's really hard being a Sasha Banks fan, especially when people try to throw, these stats at you. Oh, she's only held the title for combined, 82, 83 days. It's like, it hurts because it's like you can't really say anything against that because it's true. It's facts, But it sucks because, WWE, when, these booking decisions are fixed. So it's like the wrestlers are better than, their titles and stuff like that, too. Like I said, she's the best well-rounded wrestler in this business, and she doesn't get booked anything like it. She gets showcased, she gets put out there, but I feel like it's more so to make other people look good because she made Becky Lynch look like $1 million. She made Charlotte look like $1 million. She gave Ronda Rousey her best match during her run, and nobody can do what she does when it comes to her chemistry. I don't know what she does to make it work, but she does it. So now, right now,
I think it's more so just giving it your all. Like even if you could be the worst competitor or the best competitor, this is your passion. It's not that I'm gonna give 10% with this person and then 1,000%. It's just I'm gonna give 1,000% with everyone and give a good show to the fans. And I think that's why. I think that's what it is when it comes to her chemistry. You know what I mean? Like this is her passion. I'm not gonna half-ass it.
oh yeah, exactly. And I noticed that. And when she does that, sometimes it scares me. Like her match versus Asuka on Raw a few years ago, it looked like she almost died, a few times during that match. Not even just that suicide dive that, looked like it was botched. I don't know. But when yeah, that's what I heard. It wasn't. It looked scary though. I've never seen, a suicide dive just look so painful. I was legit scared. Like I stopped for a second. I was just hoping that she was okay. And then even a few minutes later, Asuka picked her up and slammed her on her knee, and you could just hear the smack. I was like, that really sounded like there was some impact there. I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, Sasha, it's like, please slow down a little bit. Don't kill yourself. It's like, I get what you're saying. Give it 1,000%. This is your passion. But sometimes, if it's a random match on Raw or a live event match, sometimes you need to pace yourself a little bit because, I don't want to see her or just any wrestler in general, have a shortened career. It's, wrestling is dangerous. And we've seen how, with that Sasha and Paige thing where Sasha barely made any impact on Paige, and that was her career right there. It's a very dangerous sport. But going, kind of to the future now, because right now, as of this recording, Bayley's the SmackDown Women's Champion, and they've been teasing the crap out of a feud. So what do you think we might see in the future with Sasha? Do you think they're actually going to eventually go all in with her?
I mean, I feel like it's me being naive and say, yeah. I mean, I've said that numerous of times in regards to her title reigns, or when she's finally in the title picture. Um, it's just I can't see what else could possibly happen, right? Bailey's literally beat everyone, and I know this is a Sasha Banks spotlight, but I gotta give Bailey her credit. I've always been a fan of hers as well, but she's really owned this like heel character she has going on. But yeah, she's literally beaten everyone. So it's like you're going to have to eventually drop it, right? Who are you going to drop it to? Like the storyline is there. It's with Sasha. Unfortunately, it seems like we're not going to get that in front of like a large crowd just because of everything that's going on in the world right now. But it's just I see that's where we're headed towards Sasha coming after that title. Um, how long she's gonna hold the title for, and if she even wins, I don't know. I don't know, because when we think this is finally it, it's never the situation. But that's where it just seems like it's headed.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's where it looks like it's headed. But like you said, I've said that plenty of times too. When WrestleMania 32, I thought guaranteed she was gonna win. It just made all the sense in the world. Every match versus Charlotte that she was defending, SummerSlam, Hell in a Cell, the end of the line pay-per-view or whatever it was, where they did the Iron Man match, I thought Sasha was retaining guaranteed. I thought Sasha was going to guarantee beat Becky at Hell in a Cell, and it just seems like when we, even at WrestleMania 34, when they dropped them tag titles, I did not think they were going to drop. Yeah, so it's like we think that, because Charlotte Flair, going back to her, she went through everyone. She went through Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, Paige, Becky. There was really no one left, and then Sasha still lost. She ended up winning, several months later on Raw, but it just like we think she's gonna beat Bailey. It looks that way, but it's like you have to remember, her history with the booking.
On the main roster, yeah.
Yeah, like it makes too much sense, but it just doesn't happen. I'm going to be, positive. And think, I'm assuming she's gonna win. It makes too much sense. Even though, like I said, it makes too much sense, and there really isn't, unless they do some kind of shakeup with the rosters. There's really no one. Bailey literally went through like everyone on that roster. And I just don't see them randomly doing like a Bailey and Carmella feud or something like that. Like it has to be Sasha. And then, after that is kind of like assuming Sasha wins this feud. I'm really hoping that they do like a trilogy or something with this. I don't want it just to be a one and done. I would love to see Sasha have a few matches versus Bailey. We know Bailey is her best match. By far. They had the most chemistry in the ring, and I want to see this go pretty far. But assuming that she does retain, which she's never been able to do on the main roster yet with, a singles title, is like, then who's next after that? Because one of the things I kind of want to happen is I kind of want a Team Bad reunion and Sasha be the champ and kind of, have Tamina and Naomi behind her, then eventually that kind of break up, and then we could see Sasha versus Naomi, kind of, stuff like that. I mean, how do you feel about Sasha being a heel and being with someone? Because a lot of people keep saying that she should be on her own, but traditionally she always has someone with her, whether it's Summer Rae, Becky, Charlotte, Team Bad, Bailey. She always has someone with her as a heel. Do you think that she should be by herself or with someone?
I do think she should be by herself, because it just seems like, just for the women's roster in general, that's one of the reasons why her and Bailey fought so hard for them to bring the women's tag team title. It's just they're so accustomed, like, we don't have anything for the women. Let's put them in a faction. Let's put them in a tag team, and so we can give them their segments. Sasha's more than capable to be on her own. She's done it numerous of times. A Team Bad reunion is cool, but I want to see her just be on her own. Like, have the title, be that boss that she is, and just wreak havoc on the women's division. I see a lot of people think that she's gonna turn face, but just at her antics right now just looks like that she's gonna be the one to turn on Bailey and just be the continue as the heel. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, she just at this particular point in her career, she deserves the title. She deserves to have a long, lengthy run, and just be the face of the division. Especially now with Becky being gone. Congratulations to her. Um, it's time for Sasha. Like they time and time again, they call on her, like you said, to whether it's to promote Fox or the Super Bowl or this or that. You know what I mean? The first ever women's Royal Rumble, Evolution. You call on her to promote things and utilize her because she has that star power. Well, then if that's the case, then she needs to be rewarded as such and have the title and just be the face of the company, or at least the women's division.
Exactly. And I mean, like you mentioned with Becky, and once again, congratulations to both Becky and Seth. And it shouldn't come to this, but now that Becky's gonna be gone for a while, Charlotte Flair's, with the NXT title, and we don't have Ronda Rousey here either. This is the perfect opportunity to really make her the face of the women's division. Like I said, it shouldn't have come to that. Like it shouldn't have come with all these big star power women to be gone or be in NXT or whatever. But this is the perfect time to really showcase Sasha, because I know on Raw it's going to be Asuka doing her thing right now, but SmackDown, this is Sasha. This is a lot of opportunities for women to really like step up and showcase their skills, which I'm excited for because I've been wanting something fresh for a while. I've been wanting other women in the main event picture, and like I said, Charlotte, she's still popping up in SmackDown and Raw and all that, but she's doing it mainly in NXT now, and like Becky's gone. This is the opportunity for a lot of women to shine, and this is if WWE doesn't go all in on Sasha now, that really shows a lot of things and
how they value her. I mean, even look, we saw when this everything happened with the virus and how they had to move everything to the performance center. The first SmackDown that didn't have a crowd, who started off the show. You get what I mean? It's just time and time again. And then when you look at the ratings, I try not to look into numbers because we don't really know everything. And I hate to be that fan that like, oh, well, this says this, that, and the third. But when every time I see reports say, oh, well, the women's segment scored this and it was the highest rated of the show, that's not a coincidence. People literally tune in to see what this girl is doing. Good, bad, or indifferent, you're glued in because of her and a lot of the women. I think it's a different time where most of us are really into women's wrestling.
Yeah, because I mean, first of all, it's I want to say it's new because we didn't grow up seeing this, so this is kind of a fresh new feel in the wrestling universe.
Right.
And at the same time, these women are good, I mean, these women matches are more exciting than a lot of the men's matches, and I know a lot of wrestling fans who got back into wrestling around that 2014, 2015 era, and it's because of the buzz that the Four Horsewomen were making, and I don't look at the ratings, honestly. I mean, every now and then I'll peek and see what the whole AEW NXT kind of war is going on just because it reminds me of the old days. But I don't pay attention to ratings, but I do pay attention to like the buzz on social media. And I see, the different buzz these different wrestlers generate. Like some wrestlers you won't really see many tweets or whatever. But like I said, when Sasha comes out, her name is everywhere.
More times than not, a lot of people, again, we talk about Becky being the face of the company and the division, but more times than not, I know when certain people post different graphics, Sasha's talked about more. When Sasha left, she was talked about more. Like this, we were supposed to be celebrating WrestleMania, the first ever women's main event, at WrestleMania. What happened? Sasha decided to take her break. That's all anybody talked about for those 4 months or so.
Exactly. Like everyone's talking about like when she's gonna return. Everyone was talking about how she's gonna come back and go after Becky and just all this talk, and that just shows you like how popular she is. And like I mentioned earlier, like people notice who she is. They may not necessarily know her name, but they know her face, and that's still saying a lot. Like, especially like I mentioned, she's not mainstream popular. Like when it comes to like movies, she doesn't do a lot of that stuff that some other wrestlers do. And the fact that she still generates all that buzz really tells you how good she is. And I like I want to see her succeed more than any wrestler right now, just because I feel like she deserves it. She's owed that. Like we've seen WWE do that plenty of times with wrestlers where they kind of reward them with the title eventually. Like, I know like JBL several years ago that he got the the World Heavyweight title, I think it was, and held that longer than anyone ever on SmackDown. And supposedly that was kind of a thank you for his dedication throughout all the years. It's time for Sasha. 2020 was supposed to be the year of the boss. I do know that there was a lot of buzz at the beginning of the year about her winning the Royal Rumble. It didn't happen. I know she was injured. We don't know, and that's the thing, is we don't know, was that the original plan? Was she supposed to be champion by now? That could have played a factor. I was really hoping though that she was going to win Money in the Bank. I thought that would have been a good storyline. They could have marketed the crap out of that too. We know they in the past they've done Beast in the Bank, Monster in the Bank. I was tweeting all the time, Boss in the Bank. Like they would.
I didn't think if she didn't win at Mania, I didn't think she would win Money in the Bank. Like in regards to promotion and merchandise wise, yes, it writes itself. But in regards to the storyline I think that they're trying to portray with Bayley, I don't think her cashing in is the right move for that storyline. That's the only reason why I didn't think she was gonna win this year. I thought maybe she would be in it, but I didn't think she would actually win it. I didn't think this was the year for her to win.
I mean, that's kind of what I like to do a lot of fantasy booking, and I thought of like how good of an idea it would have been, like her to be miss Money in the Bank while her best friend is champion, and that could have really put together a good storyline. Bayley would have obviously been very paranoid, and I was thinking in my head, well, what if Bayley attacks Becky and then says, "Here, Sasha, here you go," and Sasha comes behind her with the briefcase and boom, gets Bayley instead. I thought, there was a lot of different cool storylines, but I'm happy with what's going on. I'm still enjoying the Sasha and Bayley teasing that they're doing, and I'm very happy for Asuka. She's also someone who deserves it. She wrestles her ass off every time she's in the ring, and from a technical standpoint, I think Asuka is probably, when it comes to just your in-ring skills and ability, that woman can go with anyone, and probably top 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm very happy for Asuka, and just hopefully that we get that big title run, in the near future, sooner rather than later. Especially like I mentioned, with all the top stars, a lot of them missing right now. I think this is, kind of one of those. It's no excuse with WWE now. I know that you've mentioned that you've met Sasha quite a few times. Do you know on the top of your head how many times you've met her?
Let's see. You gotta give me a second just to think about it.
Oh wow.
The first time I met her was 2017, and it was SummerSlam. I'm gonna say maybe about 13, 14 times. I don't know, something like that.
Oh wow. In like a 3-year span too.
But you know what it is too? Like, if I was younger, and I know like a lot of these wrestlers have a younger fan base. I know if I was growing up now, my mom wouldn't be taking me to see my favorite wrestlers or standing in line and doing all these things. Now, as an adult, I can do that. And I always said, like, me living in New York, like, we literally get everything, right? So
yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it's not in New York, it's in New Jersey, and New Jersey's right there. If it's not New Jersey, it's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania can be right there for me. Or if it's, you know what I mean? It's literally, that's like, the good thing about living here, like you can attend so many events, and then I've traveled out and happened to she was doing a meet and greet because it goes back to her popularity, right? So chances are she's doing something. So I was like, you know what? It's always a good time. She's my favorite. I'm gonna show love and support. So you know, that's why I've seen her so many times.
Yeah, I'll have to say you're definitely lucky because, like you mentioned, everything is in New York, and that's most of my WWE meet and greets were me traveling to like New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's not a far drive. I mean, when I went to New Jersey back in early March, which was you were there too, it was like a 2 hour drive. It wasn't bad. Yeah, like I met Sasha twice. The first time was in 2016. It was like 2 or 3 weeks before WrestleMania 32.
Yeah.
So I mean that was really exciting for me. Yeah, she's very nice. I will say that. She's a very sweet wrestler, and that was when she was a heel both times, obviously. But it's always been a great experience meeting her, and I hope I can meet her more.
Yeah.
She was doing a cricket meet and greet, somewhere in my state like 2 years ago, and I didn't find out until like a few days in advance, so I had work, so I couldn't request off. But I mean, and next time she's doing a meet and greet, I'm definitely gonna meet her. I mean, she's one of those wrestlers I will travel for. She's definitely worth it. I mean, she's the boss.
Of course.
Yep. So I think that wraps up our episode. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Sasha Banks?
She's the greatest women's wrestler
Ever, yes. And when it's all said and done, like we mentioned, we just hope she has that one long title run, hopefully more. But
but the good thing about it, she's 28, so she has a whole a lot of a shelf life to her. You know what I mean? But there's always the younger generation that comes up, and and eventually she's a veteran right now, right? So it's just like you don't want it to be a situation where kind of like what they do with, for example, like Natty, right? Like she's a go-to if you want to train a younger talent or someone who's not that gifted in the ring. You go to her to get them up and running. So you don't want to see that Sasha turns 29, 30, 31, 32. And I'm sure just like a lot of the women eventually want to settle down and have a family, like, we see with Becky right now. I mean, it wasn't necessarily in the cards immediately, but life happens. You don't want it to be a situation where, damn, this is one wrestler that should have did this or did that. And you know what I mean? When you have the opportunity right now. So hopefully we as Sasha fans, and she gets her moment that she truly deserves.
Exactly, and I mean, I don't see her getting the Natty treatment anytime soon, if ever, because I mean, she has way too much star power.
Yeah.
And that's obviously I love Natty. She has her value too, but Sasha Banks is Sasha Banks, and I don't ever see her being in that role. Like maybe she'll kind of. I like to say the Chris Jericho treatment, where you get booked extremely strong, but then you put over people during the big matches, kind of thing.
And I pray that is never. I mean, that is technically the case, but I just hope that's their MO with her. Like
exactly,
just to get someone over, we're gonna book her really strongly, but no, we're gonna give it to this person.
Exactly. So I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I think she'll get that one big title run. I think it's just inevitable. WWE is really big on the four horsewomen as a whole, and they've invested a lot of time in the Bayley, Charlotte, and Becky with long title reigns. I just can't imagine them not doing it with Sasha, considering I feel like she's the one with the most star power. But
I'm sure they realized what was missing when she decided to take her little break, her hiatus. So I'm sure they realize more than ever, you know what, we got to do something, but we got to do it big for her. This is me being naive and hoping someone that truly roots for her and is behind her. I'm hoping that is the case, and we finally get our moment.
Yeah,
because her fan base deserves it too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like when she won her first ever Raw Women's Championship, I couldn't help but tear up. Like that was a bit because we were waiting for that moment for a decent length time. Because like I said, we thought we were going to get it at WrestleMania 32, and just seeing her emotion and her crying and what I mean, and then the fans when they started chanting "You deserve it," like God dang, that like really got my eyes watery right there. And it's just like I know the next time she wins this title, which is hopefully soon
Yeah.
if you're a big Sasha fan, you're not going to help but tear up a little bit. It's just like you said, they're probably waiting for the big moment. I thought it was going to be at Hell in a Cell, but then I'm thinking maybe WrestleMania. But then with COVID-19, I think maybe they wanted to be in front of a crowd. So hopefully, Summer. I'm banking on SummerSlam right now. I feel like that's yeah, hopefully we have a crowd. I do know it looks like it's not going to be in Boston like it was originally scheduled. But hopefully things go well and things get better with COVID-19 and we can actually get a decent amount of people in the arena to actually witness this. So let's just cross our fingers and then hope that she gets this big match and this big moment because we've been waiting for it for too long, and I'm tired of people trolling us Sasha Banks fans about 82 83 days or whatever. She deserves it, so let's just hope that they actually go all in on her.
Yeah, and I'm not rich. I can't keep like literally. I've gone to different events more so to chase these moments. I can't. Like after Royal Rumble, like I was there in Houston, and I was just like, all right, this is gonna happen. You know what I mean? And then the different numbers kept going by. I was like, okay, this is weird, but no, she's coming out. Like, there's no way she's there. I saw her for like it was her birthday weekend. I saw her like, you know what I mean? I'm like, nah, she'll be there. And then 30 hit and she didn't come out. I'm like, that was really deflating. And I could imagine it was deflating for her because she was there.
Oh yeah.
So it's just, I know for me personally, I can't sit here and just keep going to different events hoping to catch that moment. I would love to, but it's it's draining, it's time consuming, it's expensive. Like
Yeah.
you got it. You have to give her moment. Like I even had, and it sucks because I truly believe, like you said, we don't know what everything would have been with COVID if COVID never happened. I had ramp seats, like I was like, okay, because I felt like this was really going to be her moment, but it wasn't going to be a fatal 4-way. It was going to be her and Bailey, you know, ramp seats. I had them, and then what happens, right? So it's just like I've mentally I haven't checked out because I'm always like I've checked out of maybe wrestling slightly just because there's everything's going on, but I will always tune in just to catch her. She grabs my attention. So I'm always gonna be like supportive and waiting for that moment. But in regards to like chasing and being at every event, it's rough. you know?
Exactly. I totally understand that. For the Royal Rumble, like you mentioned, you were there. I had traveled up to New York to go to Legends with. I mean, I was at that Jobber Tears, party and all that. And just when number 30 hit and Sasha didn't come out, everyone just kind of like the mood just went down significantly.
Way in the state, I think
Yeah.
everyone was just like, and then already it was a tough day because of the passing of Kobe and his daughter and the other people that lost their lives. So it was already a tough day. So, just to see your favorite or someone that you expecting to be out there and win, it was hard.
Yeah, because that was like the one thing I was really looking forward to in the match. I mean, it was a great match, and we got to see Bianca, come in and dominate. Naomi returned, and it's like, okay, now let's just get this Sasha moment out of the way, and it didn't happen. But like you said, she's someone I always tune in for. I always look forward to seeing her on SmackDown and pay-per-views and all that kind of stuff. And she's at the end of the day, even if she loses when she's in the big match, I still feel like she wins because people still talk about her.
And it's probably one of the best matches you've ever seen. And it's evident last year with the Ronda match at Royal Rumble and then the Hell in a Cell match with Becky. She lost, but she won, so.
Exactly. So yeah, yeah, I definitely think that wraps up everything on Sasha Banks. And I said that same exact phrase like 10 minutes ago, and then we just kept going on. But I mean, it's Sasha Banks; we can't help ourselves. So yeah, Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today on over here at O Face Wrestling. Do you want to plug any of your social media, especially your podcast of social media?
Yeah, if anyone wants to follow me, my at is at Miss Jenna Baby BAYBE on Twitter and Instagram. And shout out to my co-host Blue. My podcast is at the Mixed Tag Show, so check it out.
Yep, make sure you check out her on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and also her podcast, The Mixed Tag Show, also on Instagram and Twitter. Are you on Facebook too for your podcast?
We are, but like most of our activity is more so Twitter and Instagram, but we're on there as well.
Okay, yeah, if you want to check them out on Facebook as well, do that. But yeah, like she said, most of the activity is on Twitter. I feel like the Twitter is like the most, traffic when it comes to wrestling, so that's usually the popular.
In regards to exactly. But honestly, I tend to stay on Instagram. It's like kind of like you said, like a lot of people troll and stuff on Twitter because you have the ability to type out things. So I kind of try to stay away from that. But then you have to when you want to promote your work. So
Exactly. So yeah, it makes all the sense. And then also make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, sub us on YouTube. Thank you all for tuning in today at O Face Wrestling. And once again, thank you, Jenna, for joining us today.
yeah.